I Want to Jump Like Dee Dee, with me, Giles Sibbald, is the music podcast that does music a bit differently. I'm talking to some incredible musicians, DJs and producers about how they use an experimental mindset to fuel their own creativity, pursue new challenges, overcome fears, bounce back from mistakes. So today we're going over to Nairobi, and today we're all about experimental underground polyrhythms and soundscapes and lots of deep bass. So my guest today, I'm delighted that she's come on it, is a DJ and producer who is just fabulous in her experimentation. And I'm really, really excited to find out more about her. So welcome to Monrhea Carter, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Not at all.
They're beautiful introduction. Thanks.
It's well polished. That's the only bit of the show that will be well polished from me. So I really first became aware of your work when Youth visited Uganda, which I think was in 2019, and you did some DJing with him, I think, and then sort of featured on an album that he produced, which was based on his visit there. So maybe just we can just talk about that, about how that all happened, and how you found that whole experience.
Yeah. So the event, or how Youth ended up coming, was through East African Records. And they are based in Uganda, led by David Cecil.
Yeah.
And he had also invited me for the same event that Youth was going to perform.
Yeah.
So I went to Kampala and we got to meet and interact there. There was some studio sessions. And from that experience, from after Uganda and playing at the event, we took a road trip to Nairobi. So they also came to visit Nairobi.
Yeah.
And we also had another event in Nairobi. I mean, in Naivasha, close to Nairobi.
Yeah.
And through the journey and also being with him here, I got to learn more about him, which was really nice. I really loved his set. I don't think I've ever heard a trance set that's better than his. Honestly, till today. It was an amazing experience. So that interaction was good, and he was coming also to set up to plan out the album itself, which is called Youth in Africa. So then I got featured on it.
Wow, that's amazing. Did you know that of all Youth's work and all of his the work that he's produced, he only released his first trance album last year. I think it was last year.
Whoa.
I thought that was remarkable. I was he's like one of the pioneers of the kind of trance theme. And it was only, I'm pretty sure it was last year. If it wasn't last year, it was the year before, but very recently that he released his first trance album.
Interesting.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
So how did you find that whole kind of experience of working with Youth and with the others that he kind of that were there with you?
First of all, what I loved was the interaction between the people. We all blended in so well. And at least that's brought in the environment to a nice environment to work with together. Same as the mental space we were all in. And so for my part was mostly that he took a project that I'd already done and selected it for the album. I was just watching its process, as for example, in the studio moments when he was interacting with other producers and sort of just observing and like learning from observation.
Yeah.
And if I had a question, I'd ask. He was very open to
Yeah.
share his
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the trip was mostly like a let's say a researcher like gathering information
Mm.
because he was planning to go back and now work on the tracks
Yeah.
while, while back home. So to me, the experience was really nice. Honestly, there were good people. There's also he came with Paul Dunbar.
Mm.
You know him?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's also we've also maintained contact as
Brilliant.
he hosts I'm like sessions called psychedelic discotheque.
Yeah.
And I got to play for one of them last year.
Oh
So through
wow.
the pandemic,
Yeah.
they've been doing streams.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it was a valuable trip. I
Yeah.
think each of us got something from it.
That's fabulous. How did you? How have you like? I mean, not talking specifically about the pandemic, but obviously, you know, doing live streams is something that's relatively new to everybody. I think, you know, doing this. I mean, for the arts lab last year, we did you know, sort of a couple of online festivals. You know, where, you know, DJs were you know, basically doing live streaming, and it was very new to everybody. How did you find that whole kind of experience?
Um, I was like glad to have like grabbed opportunities
Mm.
for that because I feel like now before like the by 2019 in in terms of like my career, at least in Nairobi, I had explored the, for example, venues which have this kind of music.
Yeah.
And now coming on to 2020, I was in the States for that period. And luckily I got to, before the pandemic, before the lockdown, I got to interact with some of the people on the ground there.
Yeah.
And that got me the link to some of the live streams.
Mm.
And I was glad for that experience. At least I got an opportunity because obviously there weren't physical like events happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So having an opportunity to still play to a totally new crowd
Yeah.
was definitely a plus for me.
Yeah.
And it's obviously like less worry in terms of like comparing to a physical event because the people are the judge of what you're
Yeah.
playing. For streams, it's just they have to listen to what you play.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
And yeah, so and I love that space because I love like challenging like with the music I play. Sometimes I can just do what I feel like because I feel like as DJs, as artists, we are the ones who need to like share new music to introduce people, I mean music to people, educate them. Not
Mm.
always how the narrative has been now that you play what the people want,
Mm. Mm.
rather
Mm.
than you do the work of like a teacher. You're teaching them from your craft.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I mean, your work is the work that you talked about there in terms of you know, creating something new, you know, and something different. Like I said earlier, I think you know, the experimentalism that you show, creativity that you show is phenomenal. I think
Thank you.
I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And for everybody, I mean, for example, I'd love you to talk about this, but the say as an example to help people sort of understand some of the tracks that you create with Sonic Pipe from the, you know, the river in
Mm.
Ollalua Forest is, I mean, it's stunning. It really
Thank
is.
you.
It, and I mean, do you want? You're probably better placed to talk about it than me. I can give you. I'd love to tell people what I thought of it, but I'm really interested in the, your interpretation and how that sort of came about.
Mhm. So maybe I can share like my journey into experimentation, like with
Perfect.
music. And
Perfect.
what I can say is like joining one, which is the tools. So if it's the door I'm using, that
Mm,
helps stimulate it, and also my intention that I want to create new rhythms, patterns, with them. Because I do think if you like listen to something that's like has different rhythms or patterns, that automatically does something to your brain. It
mm,
also triggers it to think in different ways. So like if the software, the DAW I started using was FL Studio, then I got introduced to Ableton.
mm,
That's where, by just playing around with the loops, I sort of like came up with uh I started feeling like what I'm creating has some rhythm, but doesn't conform to like the structure of the different music genres that are there. I
yeah.
still loved it. I was like, and my happiness was that I'm coming up with something that has um, a flow or a rhythm, but it's totally like playing around with
Yeah.
uh, like the different forms or the structures. And then now I got introduced to Sonify, which now opened up a whole other world of experimentation
Mm,
because of how, especially it works and how it's built. It's so easy to change the parameters, even changing like one value. For example, changing the rate, for example, from zero point 0.1 to 0.2, like that
mm,
makes a whole difference to the track.
wow.
So it's really interesting to play around with. And so from using Sonic Pi, first I never knew I could be able to create ambient music, for example. Like it opened up that for me.
Yeah.
and so with the track, I sorry, uh yes, I'm forgetting the the river from Ololo Forest.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that one was, the project was meant, it was actually a set at first.
Mm,
I did for a festival called Common, which is curated by Currents of Film.
yeah.
Um, so we were having like a Nairobi room where there are different artists from Nairobi. So
Yeah.
I decided to use the samples from a website called Sound of Nairobi, which has sound recordings of just sounds from the city.
Yeah.
And one of the sounds was uh, the river sound.
Yeah.
And so I sampled that and added it to Spotify and just like played around with it. And I can't explain like how exactly I chose the different elements, but yeah, I was really happy to with what I came up with, and it even landed me a review in Residential Advisor for that track.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was really surprised, like how like people actually like it, and this is um, something that I used to tell myself in the beginning of like the experimentation journey, was that so long as you feel it, you love it, you
Mm,
feel the rhythm, it makes sense to you,
mm, mm,
another brain out there, another human will also
mm,
love it because they're also human, you know.
yeah.
So someone else will also feel it as the same as you, and that can be advice to other artists who are trying to experiment and are wondering like who would even listen to this.
Mm,
It's not maybe what um, the usual shows play, but still stay true to what you really and deeply feel about
mm,
what you're creating.
yeah. It was. I felt when I was listening to it. First of all, when I came across the, sort of sounds of Nairobi, um, which gives, as you said, the sounds of traffic, of neighborhoods, of and also of the forest as well. And what you sort of put together, um, these kind of sonics, that it really kind of created this. Well, first of all, I think that the sounds of nature, for me, they helped. They kind of, first of all, like create an immediate connection, with the environment. They make you think of the environment, and then you sort of created, like start with like a sort of feeling of tension and sort of uncertainty in there. So you create a reaction, and then, but ultimately, the it was almost like a sort of feeling of, like sort of tenderness that sort of won through in the end. So that, overcoming the tension and the uncertainty through to, kind of tenderness. Now, I'm sure I may be completely different to the next person who listens to it, but that's kind of the beauty, isn't it? That it creates very different feelings for different people.
Yeah, exactly. And I honestly don't know how I end up with such. I just go with what I make the track as I'm like listening to it as I go
Mm,
through it. And I never or rarely have like a template, or I just go with it. Like if I have different stuff, so for example, for that one, and in Sonic Fire, you have to like create what you can say, like, so they're called blocks, like a block of code, which you
yeah,
can substitute to maybe a clip in Ableton.
yeah,
Um, so you have that layered like in different blocks.
yeah,
Then choose to start like the different to play the sounds of the different blocks at different times.
mm,
So um, that kind of uh, like blends, because in Sonicfy there's no, you can see the timing, you can see the like the bars in it. So you like start it according to when you feel like you want to start the next sound, for
yeah,
example. So also the uncertainty in creating the track, I also think that also brings that now from the product, not
yeah,
even from the person listening, because it's all created by just the is it right to say thinking time, or just on the go, on the fly?
yeah. So, do you think that you were, sort of creating it a lot from, sort of gut instinct as to what sort of
Yes.
sounded or just sort of felt right at that time?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, it's incredible. And but I'm interested, in asking you about, sort of formative influences that created this, your mindset of interest in experimenting. Any, sort of individuals, kind of events, ways of life. What made you the experimental person that you are?
Yeah, one huge inspiration is a DJ producer called DJ Rat.
Mm,
He was also associated with the event Youth came for
yeah,
in Nairobi, and he also, like, my first interaction with his work was when was it? I think 2018 or 2017 in this place called, it used to be called Backyard Bar. so that one was, the place was like a bass oriented place, like mostly like they play bass music or
Mm.
hip hop, and yeah, I was a regular for that place
Yeah.
because of like the bass music. So when I when I heard his set, I don't think I'd ever experienced that like in Nairobi. And from then on, I just approached him, and till today we like try to help each other. We just like pushing on our kind of sound because it's kind of like really niche in the city.
Mm.
So and also during that period, he was also looking into releasing his album called Sacred Groves.
Yeah.
And if you listen to it, you'll just see where I'm coming from.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Because so for him, for that album, he blends like African polyrhythms and now bass. He
Mm.
calls it celestial bass.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and just interacting with him, and just knowing that there's another person who's also trying out to
Yeah.
like playing around with music made me comfortable to explore this more,
Yeah.
because I knew at least there is someone else doing this as well.
That's interesting. I'm just going to put the light on behind me, but I mean, that's interesting that somebody else was, kind of support in a way for you. If do you think you would have got to where you are without that, or do you think it would have been a lot more difficult for you to, be mentally strong to continue with that?
So um, I think it's there's like two things here. There's the part where I had already connected to that part of me
Yeah.
within me.
Right.
So if he wouldn't have been there, I feel like I would have still pushed through, but not in the same way of knowing that there's still someone. I mean, knowing that there's someone and knowing that there's not someone, it would have been more of difficult
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Um, hmm, I don't know if I would have stopped. I really doubt it because it was just like 1 year into music.
Mm.
So I
Right.
still feel I'd have still like gone for a couple of years before being like, I can handle this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So um so there's him, and also another talented producer called Kamaru.
Mm.
Um he writes it as KMRU. He
Yep.
does ambient and experimental,
Yeah.
and he also is one of the people who really were like a good friends through
Yeah.
this and support, um, like as a support system in the industry.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
so
I mean, sometimes it's sort of hard when, generally, sort of in society, there's often a lot of people often feel a lot of pressure to conform,
mhm,
and to go with the flow, go with the mainstream,
mhm,
you know, kind of go to the big kind of corporate stores and things like that. So to when you're going against it, it can be quite tough, right? Um,
yeah,
to continue with that sort of self belief that this is something that you need to do. So I think having a support mechanism around you is for me in my life has helped as well.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah. I also think it kind of blends with also like individuals in terms of
Mm.
um, I do uh, like think that saying that says like you're born at a particular time for a reason.
Mm.
Because me starting this music thing and having that there was no such scene maybe 5, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and me coming into music, or rather being drawn into music at the time that there are people who are trying this out,
Yeah.
was meant for me to be associated with that scene at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know about otherwise whether I'd have chosen something else, but coming from how I know myself and my personality, I go with what I deeply feel.
Yeah.
And even like for example with family,
Mm.
me telling them I want to do music was already going out of the norm.
Mm. Mm.
But that's what I felt that would take me further, or the
Yeah.
farthest comparing to anything else.
Yeah.
So it all depends in like someone's situation. Like for example, there are people, it can be hard to survive um, with music as an income, so they choose to conform just to be able to pay bills.
Yeah.
So it all depends.
Yeah. I guess that, and again, that's another thing. Somebody that I've somebody else that I've talked to, was making that same point, about, and also that point goes back to what you were saying earlier about not wanting to play commercial music all the time. The commercial is sometimes what
Mm,
is what pays sometimes.
yeah.
So I guess as an artist, sometimes you have that dilemma,
Mm.
you know.
I think you also need to learn how to balance,
Mm,
because you don't want to get like sucked into the place you do want to be completely. At least still have your roots. Keep on, if it's uh, as a DJ, maybe you can still try do some events which are still where you can play what you want to play as you still do this other one.
yeah.
I think for me, I was lucky to be able to survive through that period, because like my cost of living was really low.
Mm, mm,
So at least if I could get something in a month, I would be able to like cater. And
yeah.
the other people who it's way difficult for them.
Yeah.
And another reason I thought, at least for the beginning of my career, I decided I wanted to concentrate on music first and just like figure it out. Like
Mm,
this is all new to me. It was all new to me,
mm,
and I felt that if I um, like splitted my mind to thinking in two ways, like
yeah.
thinking for someone else and trying to think of myself, I might end up like trying to cater for this other person.
Mm,
Well, I haven't even laid a foundation for myself.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to concentrate on that first.
Mm,
And then it happened that now 2019, then 2020, I got the opportunity to go. Then at least that gave me a breather from
yeah.
responsibilities. And so through all this, I think it's been like 4 years, at least of my mind has been mostly thinking about my craft.
Mm,
And I think I'm lucky for that,
mm,
and glad, because I think for some other artists, like it can be difficult. It has been difficult, but I do hope we do we will be able to like break these boundaries that are not
yeah.
making us like do give all we can.
Yeah. And in that time, in that sort of 4 years or longer, what 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 sort of attributes and mindset do you think that your life has given you, and your life in music or outside of music? What's it given you?
Yeah. Um,
And bear in
it's
mind, I couldn't answer this. It's too difficult for me to answer as well.
I'm very sure I'll
It's
think of
tricky.
this question afterwards and be like, why didn't I
I
think
gotta
of
say
this? Why
that.
did I say this?
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's definitely made me mentally strong,
Mm,
because this is I had no like manual, for example, to go through the way, for example, if you're doing like a corporate job, you know
Yeah,
this is what you need to do and all that. Like I just dove into it with no clue. And I'm still surviving. I've made great connections. I've like I get myself these gigs. I interact with people who end up like, for example, the connection from me to East African records to you said to you. See, it's just through
totally.
um, maintaining good connections with people.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's been um, I do believe mentally I've really grown. I've adulted, or I've become an adult through through figuring this music thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
I mean, that's
now,
fantastic. I mean, I think that you know you've hit a really important point around relationships and the ability to um, to sort of create them in the first place and then maintain them. I think people can be sort of protective of their own sort of relationships, and but so to to be able to kind of maintain those and to kind of grow them. I think is really important, and it can lead to, like you say, it can lead to all sorts of things, and it's sometimes people don't. I don't think people pay enough attention to how they treat people, how they deal with people, and by you know by by basically kind of being good to people, good things come out of it.
yeah, yeah, and in the long run, like people are the ones who will still support you. Still need the people.
Yeah,
So it's best to be nice, maintain these contacts. You never know
absolutely.
in the future like what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, the other interesting thing is kind of collaborations. We were talking earlier about the people that you've met, the people that you've met you've met other people that came to that, to those meetings and gatherings, that project, um, and also thinking about sort of Sonic Pi as well, which is, if I'm correct, is open. It's basically an open source community. So that in itself is very kind of collaborative, and innovative, and gives you like an online community as well. So the power that these sort of things can give you, both physically and then sort of online as well, is kind of quite something, right?
um, and I like the like community that has brought it from people like experimenting, because
Mm,
we all like understand and know that connecting with someone else who was like the same, who's on the same mind space is
yeah,
essential,
yeah,
especially since we're not as many compared to the other group of people. So yeah, it's all about like supporting the other, and that's how we'll grow this whole community.
yeah, yeah. I think it. I mean, I had always think of an example with like sort of collaboration. I'm a big believer that sort of human connection is really sort of powerful. And I was reading a book about Detroit, and Detroit, when it was going through its very, very bad time. The city was sort of, people were leaving, and it was collapsing. And it was about a particular district, or even just a very small neighborhood in Detroit, about how it regenerated itself, through the community. And it was really different, just different sorts of people that kind of met and decided that they had particular values and causes that they wanted to do something about the community that they lived in. So something as sort of simple, I don't like to use the word simple because it's not simple, but an idea like that where people kind of come together and they have this resilience, and they can kind of grow their skills. I think it's so kind of powerful that we can do that sort of thing. And especially when you think that now we've been in a kind of sort of pandemic where we've had to do things remotely, and I think that ability to connect with people when we're having to do it remotely, like you when you were doing the live streaming, you're having to connect with your audience, but you're not in person, is really hard. But it's so important because you can reach a lot more people now.
I think every point in time, there's a solution or a way to advance the people of that time. So definitely, tech has been helpful to advance the people of now.
Yeah.
In creating ways to connect people regardless of their locations and stuff.
Yeah.
So definitely agree with you.
Do you think there's in terms of sort of collaborations and your audience, do you think there's any differences in approaches across different age groups?
Yes, I think there is, because I feel like recently I'm even interacting with older people. Yes, yeah. So yeah, definitely the bridges are being like connected in between ages. And now personally I'm looking into, because that has been mostly online, mostly like older people, since at least they're the ones keeping like the different projects or whatever that's out there. So for this year, I'm looking into like approaching artists from here, Nairobi, wherever I can get, and do collaborations with. Yeah, because I feel like I've just been in my sort of bubble, like just working on stuff by myself, or either now, like if I meet someone online, but hasn't been mostly of the like actual physical like collaboration where you work with someone.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that again this sort of gut instinct, maybe what you've been doing before was necessary, for you to kind of find, your the right approach for you, and then now it's collaborations that opens up the opportunity for those.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you asked a question or you were commenting.
I was kind of commenting. Feel free to answer it if you want. I guess I was just sort of saying that maybe in the time you feel that the time that you felt before, the time maybe wasn't right for collaborations and opening up, but now that with the experience that you've got now, is the time is right to do that.
Yeah. Also there's that, and also at least having some presence in the scene. I think doing those collaborations will help me that at least too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the scene has a like kind of its circles of like people, those who like know each other and are mostly like just standing out there just observing. So yeah, I want to step in and at least interact more with the artists from here.
And sort of feel where that takes you.
Yep.
How do you keep challenging yourself to experiment more and kind of keep that creativity going?
Mm. I think my push mostly has been um, like events or like invitations to do like compilation, be featured in
Mm,
like compilations and stuff. Because I think that is what has been. Because I've had some like offers and
mm,
like even to do like radio sets and stuff.
mm,
So that's why I end up in the musical space.
mm,
Um, Another like funny thing, like it's weird, but it definitely like made me make tracks. It was a was a Bandcamp Friday thing because I wanted to post something at least when that period came, then I would end up like making tracks. But anyway, uh, so um, yeah, but I think w- before it was more of like just playing around, but now since I need to deliver something,
mm,
um, I sort of like end up, and it has been happening at least um, like monthly or in 2 months. So at
mm,
least I still get to continue like to work on stuff.
mm, mm. And with the ideas that you come up with, when you're writing, when you're creating, you know, if 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 you're not if you're not happy with something, or you've been working on something and it's sort of not working, how do how do you feel when you have to kind of like just sort of rip it up and go back to the drawing board,
Um,
or does that not happen?
that has happened from feedback of other people. Like, for example, if
Interesting.
because I don't know, to me it really still sounds good. So now, when it comes from someone else, and so for example, I was trying to get into this compilation where they were looking for. I didn't know they were looking for like a dance kind of like
Mm,
sounding tracks. So I came up with something, but it was more of like it sounded like a soundtrack kind of vibe, but still with some drums.
yeah.
But yeah, just the feedback I got from them was, so for example, um, before I got even like uh, good headphones, I used to use either my earphones or some really crappy headphones. So to
Yeah.
me, like for example, the bass would sound good, but apparently to them it was terrible. So so that definitely like wears me down because like to my ears it sounds so good and like you can't blame me, like I don't know how it sounded from your side,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that yeah, being told that um there's something like wrong with the sound or the mix down wasn't good or
Mm,
such. Of course it's helpful feedback, but also like I feel bad because I thought I'd done well,
mm,
apparently not really. um and that's one skill I want to um, like uh, like work on is like listening,
mm,
the like training my ears,
mm.
um, and
So I
also sorry,
was going to say,
and
no, go on, no, go.
and also coming up with tracks with like a structure because now that's my difficulty, like like actually following a structure. So those two things like things I want to work with.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So when getting when you've created something, excuse me, and then you get those sort of comments, that feedback on it, kind of tough for anybody, isn't it?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
And luckily I don't beat myself up. when I
which
get
is great.
such. Yeah, sometimes I just end up like leaving the track and like not work on it or start another. Um,
So if that happens, you don't sort of dwell on that. You don't get downhearted. You just either sort it out or leave it and start again.
yeah.
That's great.
Um,
I mean, that's a very I think that's a very kind of positive way to do things. That's a very positive mindset.
Thank you. And I thought, or I've been thinking about so there is this community like of artists who've been trying to collaborate together also from
Mm.
right from current FM. They so um there's this like channel where we can post stuff and I think so you can there's a channel where if you are stuck or you have a demo or you don't know what ideas to continue on with the track, you can post it there, then someone else can like play around with it.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so I think that's that can be a helpful like culture to ingrain around
Yeah.
producers
Yeah.
instead of the tracks like laying in the dirt. Like someone
Yeah.
else can see what to do with it.
Right. Okay. That's a very good community,
Yeah, it's just
kind of asset to
slowly
have.
trying to build ways to collaborate and help like
Yeah.
artists.
How would you say that you're a risk taker?
Yep. Yeah, my career path is already a risk.
Already full of risk.
So yeah,
Has that been something that you've always been comfortable with?
yeah. I have this kind of like sixth sense of like knowing I'll still be okay regardless of what.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that is what's always like helps me through these situations because yeah, I've had tough times. I've had like times that I've cried. I've
Mm.
had happy times, very like blissful times.
Mm.
But going those happy times are always worth it. They always like cover the bad times
Yeah.
I've had,
The bad
and
times.
yeah, and also from that sense of knowing that regardless I'll still be okay,
Yeah.
and the steps I've taken feel right.
Yeah.
So yeah, just I think having that internal sense that you're gonna be fine is definitely helpful. Because if you're full of anxiety and all this worry, that
Yeah.
can be really draining on
I
someone.
I completely agree. Really agree with you there. That's the it's funny though, isn't it? I think a lot of people face anxiety, don't they? Face
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, face
Mm-hmm.
fears, doubts. A lot of all these negative emotions and feelings that people get. I have them. Speaking to other people that have been on the podcast as well, they feel them as well, and it's hard to ignore them,
Mm-hmm.
and to no matter how much you read or you are coached, to
Mm-hmm.
avoid them or to listen to them and then just say that's not right for me and I'm going to be more positive. It's kind of it is kind of tough. So I think what you're saying and the way that you approach things is really positive. I think that's really sort of positive and you know great attribute to have to be able
Yeah.
to do that.
And sorry, 1 second. Okay. And just to at least maybe something helpful that can, like, to someone who's anxious, or
Mm.
um because like some of this um effects or traumas are like from past events, and you don't like plan yourself to, or like necessarily want yourself to be like anxious of stuff. So
Yeah.
maybe um something that has helped me, like for example in those bad times, is at least having that one person who would still encourage you.
Yeah. Yeah.
um because as they say, like, one man is not a, hmm? One man is not an island. What's that saying? One man is not an island. Am I saying it right?
No, no
No
man
man is an
is an
island.
island. Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Yeah, yeah,
Because if, like, on that day when I was really down, like having someone to talk to,
yeah,
that really helps. And just finding a way to deal with the, like, the past issues
yeah, yeah,
can really set your soul free.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you can be able now to be in that space where if something wrong happens, you know that you'll be okay.
yeah.
But if you already have things that are still bothering, you can still like bring in these negative emotions.
Mm, mm,
So maybe like doing a soul search and trying to figure out, like, where is this coming from? Because we should be always in that mental positive space. But
mm,
it just
mm.
happens that even generally the whole world is just being sucked up into negative, but eventually we'll go back to how it's supposed to be,
I was supposed
which
to be.
is
Yeah.
vibrating on a positive frequency.
Mm. I guess I mean, I think in some ways, we get a little bit, you know, sort of conditioned to think about focus on goals.
Mm-hmm.
What are your life goals? And that's like really tough, because that's almost like, if you're then focusing on a result, and if you don't get that goal that's sort of stated, then it leads to disappointment. And I sometimes think, are goals really that? Are they a good thing to have? Maybe, but not to the extent where it becomes the total focus of your life. You're trying to achieve these goals. Maybe, find some way to lessen the impact of them. I don't know. But I think what you do, have people around you. What you do is absolutely right. People that can support you, and you keep reaffirming to yourself.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like to hear like the question you've asked of whether we should have like goals, or
Mm,
we should be like uh, I think it depends. Because, so for example, if you're planning on like cook by 8 p.m.,
mm.
I think
Yeah.
that's something you can set a goal into. But for example, if I can use like my um, like a general goal that might be more realistic rather than like saying uh, so for example, uh, my goal in, for example, the music when I was beginning was, I didn't set a time, but I was like, I want at least to play in
Mm,
the two major festivals, um, and the underground clubs.
yeah.
I didn't have a time letter, but I managed to get the goal, and I was happy for it. But
Mm,
if I said that by 1 year I want to have done this, this, and this, I played at this and this place, and maybe the
mm,
opportunity comes in Feb the next year, then I'd have disappointed myself.
yeah.
Um, so I think it depends on what, but I think you were saying this from a like general perspective of like,
Yeah.
maybe in 10 years I want to be this and this, and
Mm.
then if you don't become this and this, you disappoint yourself. So maybe for things that are like needed, like deadlines or uh, uh, like life things, for example, that's really bad idea of cooking time.
Yeah. No.
But uh, so things that are time sensitive, I think it's okay to put
Yeah.
pause on.
Yeah.
But if it's something like a long term, like a lifelong
Mm.
project that you're working on, I think it's better to go through it as you continue on,
As you continue. Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
never know
Yeah.
might happen. So long as you're like, but I want this for my life,
Yeah.
and by the end of my life, at least I want to have done this and this.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
I think you're right. I think you're right. And yeah, I think sometimes too many, we can get too obsessed with the results and the outcome, and that kind of drives sometimes our actions. So I think you're right in that, and sort of having smaller ones that perhaps and keep the big ones as sort of objectives rather than specific sort of targets or something.
And achieving these small ones will help you like get
Yeah,
to
get to
the bigger
the
ones.
bigger one. Yeah. So what's next for you?
Hmm. So at least what comes to my mind is doing collaborations, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Um, and then, hmm, good question. Wonder if this is where goals should come in. uh, for me, I think doing collaborations will be helpful, because that will help me like cultivate the the culture in me of working with other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think I've only done like 2 tracks
Mm.
where, or 3 or 4, just a few.
Yeah.
Um, apart from that, I'm also um working with this musical company called Current FM. I've mentioned before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, um, and they are doing. They're trying to bridge this the bridge between like different artists by, for example, curating like festival. I mean, online events,
Yeah.
and now having this space of the community where you can interact with each other. Like they host some monthly sessions for artists who are already in the community, where people can come and talk about um, their lives, and it's really helpful like in these
Mm.
times, because everyone is just secluded. So having other artists to talk to
Mm.
who are going through the same, I think it is definitely helpful. So I am also looking into um, pushing more of the works that we're trying to do, because I think that they are helpful
Yeah.
to artists. Um, we shall even have a festival from March 12th. You're very
Okay.
welcome.
Yeah.
Um,
Perfect. Brilliant. Love
I'll
to.
let you
Yes.
know. So yeah, I think community and collaborations
Yeah.
is what I'm seeing in my near
Community and
future.
collaborations. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fantastic. And with those kind of communities, with people in the community and in the collaborations, that's going to lead to other sort of opportunities. And sometimes that's the exciting part. You don't know where it will lead, but
Yep.
you can trust your instinct to take you the right way. Phenomenal. Well, thank you so much. That's been wonderful. It's been real privilege to talk to you and find out more about what you're doing, and what makes your mindset work. It's been phenomenal. Thank you so much, Monrhea. And
Thank you so much as well.
No, I look forward to hearing more from you, and to keeping in touch and seeing how your collaborations and work with the community and the communities that you build, how they grow. But wish you the best of luck with it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I do need it.
Great. Thanks, Monrhea. Take care.
Hey, you too. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the show, and I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you'll tune in for the next episode. In the meantime, it would be really awesome if you could rate and review the show, and also share it with any friends who you think might enjoy it.